Humiliated in his own time period, the 25th century Michael John Carter stole future technology and a security robot named Skeets and traveled back into the 20th century to become the greatest hero you've never heard of, Booster Gold. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the comic book origins of Michael John Carter, aka Booster Gold. Michael John Carter was born on December 29th in the year 2442. He grew up to be a foolhardy and egotistical man, and his only standout talents were his notorious silver tongue and his ability to promote himself. Never having been the best student growing up, he took a much deeper liking to sports and football more specifically. Eventually he acquired a scholarship and proceeded to become a star of college football and even gained the nickname Booster. However, being the scheming and selfish man we've all come to know and love, Michael started actually betting on his own games. He was caught rather quickly and was banned from playing the sport altogether. Forced to take a part-time job at the Metropolis Space Museum, Michael Booster Carter was down, out, and on his last leg. On his nights alone at the museum, Michael began to take interest in 20th century history, particularly in that time period superheroes and villains. After some time, he became completely fed up with where his life was going and began to concoct a scheme. Through the aid of a museum security robot called Skeets, Michael took a Legion flight ring from a display involving the Legion of superheroes and a force field belt that belonged to Brainiac 5. He also acquired a power suit that granted him super strength and belonged to an unknown superhero. Lastly, he took wristbands that released force bolts, and using Rip Hunter's time sphere, he sets off for the 20th century along with Skeets, who possessed some historical records dating back to pre-20th century history. The character's creation, Booster Gold, was created by Dan Jurgens. His first appearance was in Booster Gold number 1 in February 1986. Booster was the first important new DC character made known in the universe after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Through the character's evolution in the modern age, upon arrival in our time, Michael used a credit card he had also taken from the museum and used it to set himself up until he could make a living on his own. He adopted the name Jesus Alvarez on the credit card for a short time, telling himself that he would pay him back as soon as he could. After he found a place to stay, he quickly made use of his stolen technology from the future and Skeets' knowledge of events to come in order to mold himself into a successful superhero. His first experience was saving the president's life from a villain named Chiller. In gratitude, the president honored Booster with a Medal of Honor. Booster planned to use this moment to announce his superhero name. He planned on calling himself Gold Star, but he was so nervous all he got out was, Booster? No, wait, Gold. So the president called him Booster Gold. He shortly created a successful company he called Gold Star Incorporated, and his sister and friend Trixie Collins would wear a uniform made by Dr. Jack So of Star Labs, and they called her Gold Star as well. An interesting transformation took place for the character eventually. Although his initial appearances focused on that of a kind of corporate celebrity superhero, he later came to take on a very different role. The roots of this are in an animated episode of Justice League Unlimited called The Greatest Story Never Told, where he is put on crowd control as the League fights a cataclysm. Unknown to them, there is a much larger threat where a scientist has accidentally opened a portal to another dimension which is going to devour our own. He successfully fights it off, but as he was working alone, he never received credit for what he did. This is the same role which he came to play in the limited series 52, where he acted as a monitor alongside Rip Hunter of all the actions which are taking place. He later continued this as a member of a group of time travelers that monitored history. In the New 52, it appeared as though this aspect of the character was lost, but in Justice League Annual, he meets a future version of himself who informs him that something is wrong with the timeline. Thus, the most audacious and brash character also becomes one of that fixes problems behind the scenes with no recognition. In post-Flashpoint, after Flashpoint, Booster is selected as leader of a Justice League International team. Booster Gold is a Canadian superhero in the DC New 52 storyline from Toronto. The team was put together by the United Nations. The Council first nominated Batman as its leader, but they thought he would be too headstrong and hard to control. So they decided to make Booster Gold the leader because they figured he'd be easy to control and they could control him easily. Booster did a commendable job as team leader and even got words of encouragement from Batman. During the short time this team was around, they encountered aliens from space that were Green Lantern level enemies and even a couple of rogue Firestorm type enemies. Booster also had an encounter with Blue Beetle, which got a lot of fans excited due to the blue and gold connection, despite the Blue Beetle being Jaime Reyes. So are you a fan of Michael John Carter, aka Booster Gold? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below, and of course, as always, I'd love to see you all next time. If only
turn.